Before we get started on SAM and DSBS and some quick changes you should look into before 2023, I want to give you just a thank you tip for showing up early or showing up on time. And today's tip is around the Government Accountability Office, the GAO. I just put out a post today on LinkedIn that was related to DoD and some of the cyber challenges, et cetera. You can find this on LinkedIn, right? By the way, if you're following me or connected with me on LinkedIn and you haven't hit the bell notification, you want to do that so that you can get access to this. I rarely, if ever, share anything other than federal agency information that will help you with your business development capture, et cetera, helping you grow your business. And so today's post I put out there was a GAO report. And in there, it was like, I don't know, 57 pages, but it was gold. It was going into some of their challenges, how they look at cyber and the different areas of cyber that they're concerned about going into the 2023 and beyond, how they deal with adversaries, but also how they're dealing with just cyber challenges internal with such a large workforce, and definitely download it. But my tip for you is if you've never gone and looked at governmentaffairsoffice.gov, I think that's GAO.gov, I think is their website. Somebody can let me know. But if you haven't gone there, go there. They've got a lot of information, so you just want to track on it, right? Follow me, hit the bell, follow them, hit the bell. And sometimes they'll put out information that'll help you really understand the situation that you can include into your call planning, the questions you're going to ask. You can include it into your proposals, et cetera. And actually, Gus, can you also put in the government website? But when you go in there, you can sort by or search for agency-related reports. And so GAO is constantly doing reports throughout the year, and they'll touch on your target agency. Sometimes you want to be tracking on that so that you can learn. So that's my tip for today is check that out. I'm pretty excited to get started today. Partly I'm a little excited because I'm taking 2 weeks off for the end of the year. We just want to focus our attention on planning for next year. And so we're going to put a pause on the lives, but we wanted to go out with something that could be really helpful to you. We often hear that you need to go update your SAM registration on a regular basis just because they want you to, because they want you to update it related to, making sure your business is still active, things like that. What I want you to do is to update SAM and DSBS, your small business profile, because it's important to you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I am excited that you're here to attend our live training about tips and procedures, process for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow the process A to Z, we're going to have predictable results. And that's what you want. That's what I want. That's why we bring this training. We're trying to bring you something that will lead to predictable results. And today will, right? We've done this training. We've helped people make sure they got DSBS and SAM filled out properly. And then we've watched them get contacted by the buyer or potential teammates, right? It doesn't mean they're getting millions of dollars sale just from that, but it's doing the right thing the right way. And being in SAM and DSBS completely, filling it out completely is the right way. Before we get started more, do me a favor, in the chat, just let us know. Who are you? What's your company name? What's your core competencies? Put it in so I can remember, so buyers can remember, and so others in the community can remember. And finally, I just want to say thank you to the GovCon Chamber of Commerce sustaining members. Without you, none of this training would be possible. So thank you very much for being a sustaining member. Okay, so I planned on sharing DSBS and walking through it and pointing things out. Problem with live sessions like this, live training, is that when the tool goes down, you're kind of out of luck a little bit. And I could show some screenshots, but the reality is I know DSBS probably better than anyone in the world because I've been teaching it for 5 years, right? There's all these fancy things people could do. And I keep coming back to SAM and DSBS after I understood one day how important it is, that it's the most important market research tool out there. And so I can walk through it, but unfortunately it's down at the moment and I can't walk through it, but I do want to give you tips and you can write this down yourself for some quick changes you can make. And these are changes that are either preventing the buyer from finding you or from preventing the buyer from putting you on a short list, right? When they find you, you want to be able to get on a short list where they learn more about you and perhaps call you. And so let's just talk about how DSBS fits into your your sales world, right? You can do active sales, active marketing, active business development, active capture. It's all kind of the same thing. You can do that active sales, but you can only do it for like 1% or 0.1% of a percent of the people you're trying to reach. The rest of the time, you have to be dependent on your marketing assets and your passive sales tools out there to have them reach you. So I noticed David Waltz is in here from the Navy. If he's looking for potential 8A firms that do cybersecurity, he'll go to the DSBS tool and type it in. If you're not visible, he's not going to find you. If he types in cybersecurity and you come up and say, I do cyber construction and something else, he's going to go, you know what, I'm going to keep looking. And if you just are in there, but you come up with the results, but your profile is pretty anemic, he's not going to respond to you. And so you want to be what I call findable and attractive, right? Those two things. Findable means somebody can search for a company like yours and your company is found. And then attractive is what I just described. When they're looking for cybersecurity, the attractiveness part is that everything you say about your company screams cybersecurity. So just thinking about the process for how they search, and then I'm going to go through the fields and tell you these fields, and you can write them down. And I'll remind you, write this one down, write this one down. But the basic search is just like Google. You go in, you type a keyword. I know they can search on all these other parameters, but it's a keyword search. That's how we intuitively search. And so when we search keywords, DSBS and your small business profile, but through DSBS, it comes up with a table of results of companies. You want to be on that list. And when it comes up, there's a capability narrative section. This is basically what do we do? If it's empty or if it's anemic or if it's wrong, then you're not going to even get clicked on, right? But if they like it and it fits, they're going to click on it and go down through your profile, learning more about you. And that's what I want to talk about is some key tips here to make sure you're being found and you are more attracted to the buyer. So I'm going to come down DSBS as we go forward. And again, I don't have the profile to show you because DSBS is up and down at the moment when I was coming into live. But let's just start at the very top. One of the first things you want to make sure that is good to go is your website. If your website is not HTTPS / or colon / or whatever, it'll error out. So go into your profile, click on it, and you will see whether it works or not. 75% of the profiles in there, their website doesn't go forward. And when buyers are coming in to research and they notice that you don't have HTTPS or something like that before your www part of your URL, your website, then they know it's probably going to error out and they just move to the next person, right? That's something simple you can do is to make sure your website works. And so go in and look at that. That's the first one you want to write down is make sure your two websites, there's two websites in there, are working on your DSBS profile. The second thing, and this is all in this basics section at the top, the second thing you really want to pay attention to is your point of contact name and the email address. The email address should be a person's name. It should not be info. It should not be sales. When the buyer sees this, they think it's just going to go into oblivion. When you reach out to a company and you're sending an email to info, don't you feel like it's going to oblivion, right? And who knows if anybody's going to get it. But if you're sending it to John, then you feel like, well, at least I'm sending it to a person. Well, the market researchers who come into DSBS feel that same way. They subliminally have confidence when they see a name and they don't when they see info or sales. And then coming down, one more thing in the basic section that I want you to fill out, basic information, is credit card. A lot of people, when you start your profile in government contracting, in SAM, you just leave it as no, we don't accept credit cards. Get in there, change that thing to yes. Just because you accept credit cards doesn't mean you have to take a piece of business the government's giving you. But it's a subliminal thing. If you say, no, we can't accept credit cards, actually it says, I think we don't accept credit cards. But in our head, we turn that to, you can't accept credit cards. And when it says subliminally, we're thinking, well, if they can't accept credit cards, then how on earth are they going to accept $1 million contract? So just change that to yes. It's simple little things that subliminally impact that buyer when they're coming in, right? So the top section is called basic info. And 3 things you want to pay attention to. You want to pay attention to your website to make sure it clicks and goes through. You want to pay attention to your email to make sure it's a real person's email address, name, right? And the third thing is you want to make sure it says, yes, we accept credit cards. That's that. As you come down, the next major section I want you to pay attention to is a section called, I think it's called non-federal certifications. And in there, People put various things, and often you see minority certifications. In there, what I'm recommending you put are all your company and even some of your personnel's certifications. So if you've got ISO and CMMI and things like that, throw that in there. You can also throw it into narratives, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but throw it into this certification area. It is not keyword indexed. It means no one can search it and find it. But when somebody is coming down your profile and they see this section that says non-federal certifications, and they see ISO or CMMI type certifications, they go, oh, level of maturity. And then they look in there and they see PMP or some of these cybersecurity certifications, or even construction or elevator certifications, whatever they are. As they begin to look at it, it gives this implied sense of maturity of your organization compared to somebody whose profile is blank and empty, right? It's a subliminal thing, but also it tells a little bit of a story. It's like, oh, especially if you're cybersecurity as an example, and you've got a bunch of cyber certs in there that your team has, that shines out, right? So that's that one. Go look at your non-federal certs. That's the field. And I think it's unlimited, but certainly you're never going to fill it. But go in and put all the ones you think are relevant to the story you're trying to tell. We're trying to tell the story. Our organization's mature. This is what we do. Okay, coming down further, the next field that I want you to pay attention to is this field called capabilities narrative. A capabilities narrative is the first of 3 fields that are full text indexed. What it means is that DSBS, this tool, indexed these 3 fields: capability narrative, special equipment, and manufacturing, which is right below it, and then a field called keywords, ironically. Those 3 fields have been indexed. And so if any buyer comes in and they type in elevators or cybersecurity, those are the 3 fields that are indexed and searched. And that's why I make sure you want to fill them out. They total 2,500 characters. I want you to use all 2,500 characters. And so it's a good fun exercise to go, well, how would Janie come search for us? What keywords would she search? And so you want to fill it in. Let me describe how you fill them in. So the first field is called capability narratives. And this is vital that you do this, because if you're not filling out capability narratives, the special equipment, if you're not putting in the keyword fields completely, then somebody might search for you and not find you, even though you're one of the best. I like to say the government does not buy the best, buy from the best company out there. They buy from the best available company among the pool that they have together, right? So they find 10 and they look at the 10 and they pick the best type thing. Your company could be way, way better than the one they chose, but it doesn't matter if they can't find you. And so by using these keyword fields, you can get found in there. And by using them properly or filling them out properly, you will be attractive to them. So the first one, capability narrative, I describe this as the answer to the question, what do you do? And the audience is a wedding. You're at a wedding, you're sitting around at a wedding reception, sitting around the table, maybe a Thanksgiving dinner with your extended family. You're sitting at one of those 2 dinner tables and somebody says, well, what do you do? You want to answer that question. Well, here's what I do, in a way that is has some keywords out there that the world knows about, right? But it doesn't go too heavily into jargon. You got to keep in mind, the first people who tend to look at your profile are small business specialists, contracting officers, et cetera. These are not the subject matter experts within the agency, within your target agency. The program office is the subject matter expert. And so you want to speak in a way that that small business specialist, that contracting officer, that market researcher can quickly go, yes, I search for cyber. Everything they're saying is cyber. And none of these really weird words, but just zero trust is an example of a big buzzword that you could put into that top narrative that anybody who reads it go, oh, zero trust. Yep, they told me about zero trust, right? And not to minimize small business specialists, contracting officers, et cetera, but those people are looking for cybersecurity and construction and welding and software development and training and all these different things. How can we expect them to know everything about what we do? So we need to say it at a high level. What do we do? What I also say is in your capability narrative are where your top 5 or 10 keywords, the very top ones belong in there. So cybersecurity, as an example, zero trust belongs in there, right? Information security, if that's another type one. Those words you weave into a narrative. And when it says capability narrative, we really do mean a narrative, not a bunch of keywords. That's a mistake people make. Have a narrative that says, this is who we are. This is where you can put in, we're ISO and CMMI, right? You can say that naturally into a narrative. We have been working with commercial and state and local and government and federal government customers for a long time or something. Plus you weave in that few sentences that are about what you do, your core competency. So that's 1,000 characters. Your most important keywords go there. When you put those keywords in that narrative, you don't have to worry about putting them down below, right? It only has to be found once for your profile to come up. So write that down, capability narrative. You need to track on that. The next one below that, the next field is my favorite field because it's basically unused. It's this legacy field that just is 1,000 characters that you can put anything you want in it. And it's labeled special equipment / manufacturing, I think. And it's kind of a legacy field for construction. Or manufacturing parts. We sell Otis elevators or these kind of things, but it doesn't matter what it was meant to be. It is a free and open field that you can use. And I say that is your second capability narrative. And in this case, you're not sitting around a wedding reception table. You're sitting at a conference, cybersecurity conference, and people say, well, what do you do? And now you can talk a little bit more jargon heavy. Now you can put in maybe a case study sentence about we've done this kind of thing for this type of customer. And I say your audience is the program office, right? If the program office looked at it, they would understand it. And so here you're using your next level of keywords that are a little bit more jargon heavy. Maybe the market researchers, et cetera, won't understand it as much, but it doesn't matter because you said, here's what we do on a high level so everybody understands. Here's what we do on a more in-depth level. Imagine if you're trying to sell into an agency and you do IT. You can talk to the contracting officer and the small business specialist in one narrative, and the other narrative, you're talking to the director of IT and the CIO, right? They have two different jobs. And so what's in their mind and in the language, the words they're familiar with, the lexicon is different. And so those two narratives, you want to make sure you get right and target to the audience. So the first narrative, capability narrative, is for the contracting officer and the market research, typical market researcher. The second narrative is for the program office, right? And it's answering the same question. What do you do? Don't worry about repeating words that are up above. Try to weave in new words if you can. Now, if your whole company is cybersecurity, you're obviously going to put cybersecurity in there again because it'll be natural in your sentences. But in here, you want to kind of put those in. So the third field that you want to pay attention to, and these are things you need to change, right? Just coming down. We're currently in this process of talking about the 3 fields that get you found in your small business profile, which is SAM and DSBS. The third field is keywords. Now, this one literally can be a keyword, comma, keyword, comma, keyword. You can put in 25 keywords in there, and it can add up to, I think, 525 characters. So you can look at those keywords, and this is where you get those really one-off weird keywords. So if you're a software developer, you don't put languages up above in the narrative. That's just too weird. Weird's the wrong word, right? But it doesn't really help in a narrative. You don't sit there and say Drupal or something up the top. Put those type of words down below. So you have your, if you go to write your narratives, what we tell people, because we teach about DSBS all the time. By the way, you can get our course for the Dynamic Small Business Search. It's free. It's out there available to people who are sustaining members. It's also available freely as all the YouTube content on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find a playlist that has 5 hours of how to fill this out properly. So everything I'm telling you, I've been teaching for 5 years. You can get in there and see it. And I talk about how do you do keywords, right? You go through this exercise if you have top level keywords, and then you next set of keywords, and then you dive even further. You know, how will this person try to find us? What's some of the odd ways they look for us? And I'll give you a tip in a second if I've got time on how to do the keywords. But those 3 narrative fields, capability narrative, specialty equipment, so the program office narrative, and then the keywords. You want to have a keyword list and weave them in so that when somebody is looking for the top 50 keywords that they would search on to find you, they'll find that in one of those narratives. So it took me all the way to this point to realize that that scroll bar was going across, and I'm staring at it the whole time. Sorry about that. So, okay, hopefully if that's making sense, if what I'm saying is making sense about these narratives, do me a favor, put in get found into the chat. Let me know that you understand that these 3 fields that are indexed by DSBS and SAM will help you get found. Put get found into the chat. Okay, so I'm going to expand a little bit for 1 second on keywords. A couple of tips on how you can find keywords if you struggle with it. I love using the whiteboard example. Go to the whiteboard, and if you do cybersecurity, put cybersecurity in the middle of the circle and go, well, what's the top 5 words somebody would think about related to cybersecurity? And I might put zero trust or information assurance or red team, blue team, whatever, I don't know, or offensive, defensive, cyber. But you do that. And then from each circle, you just keep going out, putting more and more. Do that exercise with you and your colleagues to come up with all the keywords. Then when you struggle, here are a couple of tips that you can, and you'll learn this in that free training I was talking about, but excuse me. One of the ways you can do it is just go borrow from your competitors, right? If you're doing cybersecurity, go into DSBS, type cybersecurity. When you see the results come back, you can look at it and go, oh yeah, zero trust, I forgot that. We do that. You're not stealing anything from them. You're just reminding yourself what keywords relate to what you do. And so looking at your competitors is a normal way of moving forward, right? You're not trying to plagiarize their paragraphs. You're trying to find keywords to remind yourself what it is. So that's one great way. Just go type your main keyword into DSBS and look at your competitors. The other thing, I built a tool actually, just as a side note, that I could type in a keyword and go find all the DS profiles that had it and then pull all their keywords out. And you can do this thing, I can't remember what it's called, like it's a cloud where it makes the word bigger. Somebody tell me what that's called, but it makes the word bigger if it's used more often. Long story short, you can find 1,000 competitors and find out what keywords are used most among your competitors who say they're cyber companies. Another way you can do it is, and this is one of my favorite ways to tie it to the agency, is I would go over to DoD. I just told you earlier about a GAO report that I posted today related to Department of Defense cyber challenges. I go in there and I look, how are they describing cyber? It's amazing what's in there. It's 57 pages. So I start seeing it and I understand it, right? You could also go to SAM.gov and find every single contract that was awarded or even coming up and look at their solicitation and see what words are in their descriptions, what words are in their PWS. You just look at the beginning part. You don't have to look at every area, but you can quickly look to build a list of keywords that allow you to then write those 3 narratives or those 2 narratives and remaining keywords. So all that type of tips, by the way, it's in YouTube. So you check out the YouTube channel. You'll find, I don't know, it's like 30 videos that go through every piece of DSBS in there. The last part of the dynamic small business search, and this is why it's really important you make this change before you go into 2023, is when Janie comes and she looks at your profile and she looks at the top and sees your basic information is good, the keyword or the narratives are good, and it's really attracting her to say, I think this company might be one I'll reach out to and talk to. Then she's going to say, well, I found you. You look like you do what I'm looking for. Do you have experience? In the very bottom of the your small business profile or the dynamic small business search tool is past performance, experience section. You want to make sure you put in the last 3 years of experience in there. And a couple of quick tips on what I mean by this, right? You can use any experience out there, commercial or public, right? Or federal, right? You can use that. You can use prime and you can use sub. None of it matters. This tool is a market research tool. It is not a proposal. You don't have to worry about the formalities of past performance. Inside the experience section, we get caught off filling it out wrong. So some of us put, like one thing, it has points of contact. Don't put any point of contact in there. Don't give your competitors your customers' names and phone numbers, right? Don't make it easy for them. And so instead say, point of contact available upon request, right? The value, put that in so it looks like dollar signs and it's clean, right? If it's $1.2 million, put $1, comma 200, yeah, comma 000, right? Put that in nice and clean. And then as you're coming up, put the period of performance. But the part that's so important to me is that when you come up, there's 2 fields there. One's called name and the other's called contract. And the name, I believe, is 80 characters and the contract is 20 characters. And what I tell you to do is forget about putting a contract number in. That's not helpful to you at all. Somebody else might go, oh, that's important, but forget about it. What you want to put in there in my training here is you want to put the customer. I tend to put something like DoD space pipe space. That pipe is right above the enter key on a regular computer. But space pipe space, and then DoD, U.S. Air Force, so USAF, and then space pipe space again, and I might put in AMC, right? And having that makes it really quick and easy for them to go, oh, you worked in DoD, Air Force type stuff. So you're instantly driving them to, you've got past performance at this location. And the description above, don't use the government's title of the contracts. Use your own. You're trying to sell yourself as a cyber company or elevator company, right? If that's the type of work you've done, create a creative title for that experience. When you're having the conversation, you can say, hey, this is what it's called. But what good is it to have an IT support contract, where it says IT support, and that's the title of the contract? It doesn't do any good. You want to be able to communicate in that 80 characters, a really small amount of space. You want to communicate what it was. And so if you did IT support, but it was actually on an Oracle platform, you could do something like Oracle System Engineering. Think about what you did, dig deeper into the PWS and pull some of that language out, but you're looking for your keywords. If you want to win business as a data company, make sure most of your past performances somehow are alluding to this. And this is no different than when you're filling out LinkedIn or your resume. You don't want to just use what the company gives you as a job description. You want to say what you did. If you're trying to get a job as a data engineer or something, then you want to make sure all your jobs kind of look like they were leading to that. Well, experience is that same way. You want somebody to come down to the bottom, see the experience and go, oh, they have experience doing what I just read above. So if that makes sense, just put in show the experience. And you can also say show PP, past performance. So show experience. And when you've done this, you will have a a small business profile, SAM and DSBS, going into 2023 that will get you found, right? You're trying to get found by the buyer. And the only way you can be found is if you have a complete profile that lets the system serve you up to the small business specialists or the market researchers when they're looking for a company just like yours. Again, I mentioned that there's a whole free set of courses. I am going to update it because the course is 4 years old, I think, but don't worry about it because DSBS is like 400 years old. But I am going to update it for 2023, but it's not fundamentally changing. So go in there now and watch the videos, especially the ones relating to the capability narratives so that you can get found. That's the part that I feel so bad that people are missing on. So hopefully that makes sense. Just a quick reminder of the fields in case you didn't write them down. They're your email address. Make sure it's good to go. Your website, make sure it's good to go. Your email address goes to a person. Your credit card is yes. Your non-federal certifications have your company ISO type ones, as well as individual PMPs or CISO or type things. And then in your narratives, put your narrative for those three fields: capability narrative, special equipment, and keywords. And then the last part is experience. Make sure that you show that you've done and have been paid for the work that you're saying you're an expert at. Hey, if you'd like to work with us, we have a BD Accelerator workshop. Love to have you join us. If your company's the right phase, it tends to be for $1 million and beyond. Companies that are that stage, just shoot me a message in LinkedIn if you'd like to learn more about it. Remember, government contracting is not a secret. It is just a process. Part of the process is for me to take 2 weeks off through the end of the year. So I'm going to do that, but we're coming back and we're going to be doing way more training next year, starting on the 2nd, which is Monday. I hope you come back. If you're connected or following me on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever, hit the bell notification so you're notified when we've got all this training coming out. Really appreciate you being here. I hope you have a great weekend. I will talk to you soon.